I'm going to very strongly stick to my belief that there's no other place in the world that you could do this race this way and have this experience. It combines all these different elements of racing and types of cars and types of people from all over the place in this really juxtaposed environment that is Mexico. Ultimately, La Carrera is an opportunity to find out who you really are. There's people that say, yeah, I'm a car guy, but La Carrera will determine exactly what you mean by that. You know, how much of a car guy are you? People ask, what's the goal of this race? What do you get? What's the big prize at the end? There's no bag of gold, there's no big oversized check. Big payoff is to get to the end, because a lot of cars don't make it that far. It's a vision quest. It's a personal endeavor. It's like climbing Everest. It's like doing the Jamir Trail, trekking across the Serengeti. It's one of those things, but it's motorized and it's multifaceted. There's all this intermingling of Mexican culture, Spanish colonialism, roads, cars, all these flavors, foods, beer. It's all there, little pieces. You get this challenge that you hope to get to the end.
Boy, that sounds
As you grow older and you experience life, it gets harder to find the things that give you that Christmas morning feeling. La Carrera has the ability to bring that back. If you like cars, if you like racing, if you like strange and exotic destinations, cram that all into this ball, and that's what it gives you. There's a connection, and it draws certain kinds of people together, and that's part of the allure. Now I'm part of that history. Somebody from the outside jumping in, they have the romantic allure, but they don't know what they're getting into. First arrived in Veracruz, the weather was pretty bad. It was raining, thunder, lightning, white caps coming off the ocean, and not a good environment for vintage sports cars.
A lot of people ask why we do La Carrera, and I think the first thing is probably insanity. And we went into it for the race, the excitement and just racing this classic race. However, when we got down there and saw the culture of the people, going through the communities and going through the small villages, you see the faces of the kids, and we're handing out postcards and we're signing autographs. And we went down there for the race, but we kind of stayed for the people. And it's the people and the culture of Mexico that's truly incredible.
For me, the spirit of La Carrera, after participating in it and living it, it is that. It's the spirit of a race that was conceived many, many decades ago in a different era, commemorating a major happening in America, which was the Pan American Highway. A lot of people in northern North America aren't familiar with that, but if you were a citizen of Central America, South America, Mexico, this was a major deal.
Primer auto que encienda su motor, Hillary, please start your engine.
All of a sudden, a journey that may have taken several months is now weeks. So for them, this meant commerce, travel. It's a big deal. So they commemorated it by using it for what it was intended for, which was moving. And what better way than in a race car? The car I built for Rob Curry is a 1962 356B. It had raced and campaigned here in the States for many, many years, but it ended up in New Zealand. Rob bought it, he came over, and it was set up, but not set up for La Carrera. We won with this car in 2009. We also won in 2010. We decided to build a bigger motor And when we did that, we were no longer eligible for Historic A. So we've been moved up to a class called Sport Minor. And Sport Minor allows much more displacement and many more modifications. And while we're not the most modified car, I know for a fact we're the lightest car. We're right at limit, which was the plan, and this gives us an advantage. The thing you have to be considerate about, especially in a road race, under these fairly severe conditions, is that it's a balancing act. You don't want to build to the extreme. You want to build to a high level of performance with some reliability. It's about 140 horsepower and has a pretty nice little torque curve. It's a little soft on the bottom, but once it goes in, it's all in. It runs very strong. Much more affordable to build a Type 4 or a Type 1, but they don't make the same sounds. They don't rev as high. Well, personally, I don't have the love for those engines that I do for this particular variant. It gets personal for me sometimes. I started working on Porsches in 1986. Around the same time, I was also active in club racing here in Southern California. I made a name for myself in a little niche working on 4-cylinder Porsches, namely 912s. I was able to make them go pretty fast, and in fact, at my home track, which at the time was Willow Springs, I could embarrass people in my little 912. And pretty soon, I found myself being asked by other individuals, how is your car set up? How can I do this? Where'd you get that part? Oh, I made that part. Oh, can I buy one? So then the business side started to make more sense to me. And I gravitated away from my professional life as a facilities engineer to completely dedicating my life to working on Porsches.
You know, John's a Porsche guy, so he's been a Porsche guy just like me since he was a kid. I met John through an acquaintance in the Porsche Club, probably about 5-6 months before we did the first race in '09. The car was nothing like it is today. It was a car that had done the race in the early '90s in the La Carrera. It was purchased and taken to New Zealand, turned into a track car, so we had to take it from a track car back into a Carrera car. And John looked at it and said, you know what, I know a lot about this race, I know a lot about this car. You know, I want to be your partner in this thing and get involved in this. So the first year, John didn't go with us. We hitched a ride with another team, and we did a lot of the mechanical stuff ourselves. You know, we replaced some of the parts of the transmission. We took out the engine on a bedspread in the middle of the night, our first year, because John wasn't there. From then on, John comes in all the races. Makes our life a lot easier. You know, we didn't sleep that well. You know why? Didn't drink. You didn't drink?
No sedatives?
No sedatives. Going to bed sober is a bummer.
Yeah, we're not meeting up with anybody.
Oh.
I think we're just gonna go.
Go to safe? See you lunch?
Yeah,
See you lunch.
Listen to me. We are on a schedule. We have to go now. What do you want? Bullshit. Bull of the trailer. We don't owe any money. Open the fucking gate. We need to go. Dice que pagó ya en la entrada, que dijo que traía una camioneta y un trailer. Ajá.
From the time I was a kid, my first car was a 1959 Volkswagen that I bought for $350. Fixed it up, and Porsches were always a dream. When I looked at this race and really looked at the challenges in the terrain, you know, I said, I want the least amount of moving parts. I want a car that's bulletproof. This is a car that would have raced at the period. So you saw Spyders and you saw Speedsters and you saw 356 Carreras in the original races in the 50s. So it was a car that's iconic, that should be there. And that's one of the reasons why you see so many Porsches in this race.
And some people might ask, why would you race a little 356 that only goes 125, 130 miles an hour when you could have this 800 horsepower Studebaker and really go? It's a different world. There's an aesthetic associated with Porsche. There's smells and feels and vibrations, and it's a romantic notion. Some people choose their race car based upon what they like. So you're a Porsche guy, you race a Porsche. Ferrari guy, you race a Ferrari. Mercedes guy, etc., etc. Now, some people just go down there to race. And there are companies that build cars and they field them, 5, 6, 7 cars. And people fly in from the Netherlands, Germany, Japan, and they bring a driving suit and gloves and they get in the car and they go. And they're just there to drive that car. They have no connection to that car. It's not a choice. It's what's available within that stable. But Rob Curry races a Porsche because he likes Porsches. And there's some challenges racing that car. The co-pilot just called and said they were having a problem with the brake pedal, that they're getting half pedal, and that the car is pulling to the right. So we don't know exactly what's happened. Instead of proceeding to the scheduled stop for service, we had to make a U-turn up in the mountains. So now we're heading to Orizaba, where they're scheduled for a breakfast.
Nothing's overheated.
Well, we've been sitting here for half an hour.
Okay, all right. Now we've been in a while.
I'm gonna jack it up and pull the wheels off and do a bleed real quick.
Okay, let's flip the tires too, huh?
We have a brake issue.
This is the fun of La Carrera. You never know when things are going to break.
On, off, on, off. But you're cycling too fast. I don't know what's up. I really don't know what's going on here. Everything's functional. Nothing's blued. I don't have any hanging brakes, but their pedal was going away. This could be in the master.
Foot on the pedal. Now do not let all the way off. Let up just a little and step on it again. Does it go down each time you do that? Yeah. It's master cylinder.
Master.
Because when you let up and step down and went farther. Okay.
So we're probably losing
It's bypass. Bypass.
Go down.
Clear to start.
This is a transit section. There's a race up here in 5 kilometers, but we saw 2 ambulances go by. So I'd imagine with the rain, there's been an accident, and they're probably calling the stage. So, not that the accident is good, but it might be good timing for us to fix this and get back in. If this is canceled, we may be in good shape.
How's the pedal?
John's gonna.
When I pump it, I get more pedal.
Yeah, but I mean, pump it and where's the pedal? Does it go down?
Not that much. No.
So you got a pretty good pedal.
Piece of the pedal.
All right, well, good enough to get them up the mountain. We were supposed to make a jet change at the service. We never got to the service. Instead, we did the emergency repair. Anyways, we're looking good. We're gonna be fine. This is many stages. It's a marathon. We broke down before in the past and come home with gold. So I think we're on path. We'll be all right. Besides landing into this race, you know, all of a sudden you're in a race, right? You're also in Mexico, and Mexico is a very different world from the day in, day out world I live in here in Southern California. There's so many juxtaposed cities and vistas. As you drive through Mexico, there are hugely populated modern cities. And then you're in wide open spaces, the sun shining through the clouds and volcanoes. There's so many different things going on between the people, the architecture, the roads. It varies from hour to hour. Having raced in Mexico several times, I'm still amazed by the new things I see every time I go.
This is just not normal. We're going 2,000 miles. And we're this 1,000-person snake going from the south part of Mexico to the north part of Mexico. You have police officers that are guiding us through the towns, but some of them are not the best with directions, and they point this way and they point that way. And as we're coming up doing 50, 60, 70 miles an hour through these towns, you know, it's easy to get lost.
Okay, we'll do one more time, I think. How's the pedal feel? Really? Okay. So it should be pretty hard. So it feels about the same. This could be ugly out here. Come on. Come on. Boy, that's anticlimactic. There you go. All right, so morning fueling, money for tolls, and coffee. Well, we headed to first service, 75 kilometers, but the big push is Mexico City, the most congested, crazy city on the planet.
But it was running good, John. Our speed times were good. We got a 2-minute penalty starting off. Our swim clock was 2 minutes off. This year was tough because we missed sections, and when you miss a section, you're going to pick up a penalty and the slowest time in your class. You have to remember that they're closing public roads. They can only close them for an hour by Mexican law, is what we understand. And you have 120 cars that launch every 30 seconds. So if you're early or if you're late, especially if you're late, you're holding up this whole thing, and you can prevent people from racing.
La Carrera is the perfect never give up scenario. If you give up, you will lose. but if you keep trying, you can win. And that's why, like last night, there were transmissions sitting out on trailers and heads off of engines and guys, I mean, literally tearing transmissions down to replace a gear, because they know that if they're up and running in the morning and they have a good day, their competitors could have just as bad a day as they did the day before. Fortunes are won and lost on an hourly basis.
First edition of the Carrera Panamericana in 1950, the Carrera was the most popular auto event in the world. The people like Juan Manuel Fangio, Felice Bonetto, all those F1 drivers came to Mexico to race the Carrera. So it was a very important event for car builders as Ferrari, Porsche, Lancia. The Porsche named Carrera is after this race. The new Porsche Panamera, it's named after that event too.
In the world of racing, there are many venues and types of racing. But the ones people are familiar with are generally sponsored races. You have a professional driver. You have a car that is built by, with huge budgets, sponsorships. That kind of racing, that's not privateer racing. In fact, it's almost impossible for someone like me or someone like Rob Curry to say, I want to be a Formula driver. Once you make that commitment, get all your money out, because what's it cost? $20, $30 million to field a car? And the odds of you being competitive are slim and none. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But the La Carrera race gives you a very, very challenging road race, and it's not insurmountable in terms of dollars. You can do it in a smart way and actually achieve many, many goals, including being the pilot of a true race car built to a spec in an incredible environment with many challenges. And that's the appeal. So we pulled over on Ignacio Zaragoza. They've actually arranged for a police escort into Zona Centro, downtown Mexico City. This is so golden, because normally we'd be thrown to the wolves, arrive and just have to fend for ourselves. And the people here, they drive aggressively, so very easy to have an accident.
The other two teams, of the four teams, two are almost out of it. They're going to be working long nights tonight. The other team that I didn't think was going to be a problem has become a problem, because everything they have is new. And they have professional, people helping them all the way around. So it's going to be interesting. Rob always tells me not to be so serious, because I do have my serious moments. And, he wants things to work right, he wants things to be good, but he always reminds me that this is for fun. He's not a professional.
America has flyover states. So does Mexico. These flyover areas between the tourist spots, that's where the real spirit is. That's the thing that makes this race really interesting. Because aside from the competition, the mechanics of it, the support aspects, there's this intermingling of Mexico. And ultimately, it's one of those things where you say, I did that. I did that. Because how many people have? Not too many. It's the Kilimanjaro, it's the Everest, it's the pyramids. Have you stood there and looked at it? Have you touched it? Have you smelled the smells, tasted the tastes? This is one of those events where it's striking and it sets its hooks in you, and it's like, I'm not gonna do it, and then it just drags you back in. The allure is there, and it stays with you forever. You see what we did to move that car? We don't know whose car that was, but you leave something unattended like that, and it gets in the way anyways, we were very gentle. Go ahead. Hold.
floor.
All right, again, we have no tubing. We just brought what we needed over here because we're out in the middle of one of the most historic areas of Mexico, and we're bleeding brakes on the street, which I actually feel like I'm being a terrible man. Some of the teams probably don't feel like they're being terrible men, but I do, because I'm delicate, sensitive.
Yeah, you go into the pits at night, guys are hammering and sawing and welding and anything else they can do to get the cars back on the road. You all go in there, you know, thinking that you're going to win, you want to win. We're competitors, but at the end of the day, it's about the people you meet. It's about the challenge. It's about getting up at 4 in the morning, getting the car ready, sitting there, driving all day, yelling at each other, being pissed at the navigator, having fights with John, the mechanic. You know, it's nuts. But at the end of the day, we're a team. We come together and we really look at this and say, you know what, this is pretty cool.
There's a lot of emotional dynamics that take place during the race. I would say by far the calmest, best communication I have during the race is between Rob and myself. Rob is a very, very cool and collected individual. So although he may be upset or dissatisfied or have a concern, he's just business. Like, this is the problem, let's get it done, okay? I'm more of a, oh man, Jesus, you know, we have to fix it, you know. So I'm much more reactive. It's hard for me to hold things in. In fact, it's impossible. So I'm that guy. Our guys actually are ahead of all the competition in our class today, and they're going to lose it all again because of penalties. And they lost it yesterday because of a timing penalty on a stopwatch from Ricky. Who has a heart on? I don't know, but the same guy that gave me the penalty is delivering ice to his race team over in the corner. So, you know, it's done. That'll work. Just lower it gently. I have to be honest, there's times when I get upset. I'm not happy. And so people that are on my crew, if they're not getting done what I need to get done, or if I feel they're slacking, I'm going to be very verbal and physical about it. I've taken more than one person out on a race to be the co-pilot because people's schedules don't always mesh, or sometimes their families don't want them to go to Mexico. And this is what happened this year. My initial plan didn't work out. So I have so many guys working at the shop. So Eric Verdugo, my co-pilot this year, he was the obvious choice after everybody else couldn't go.
He's a pain in the ass today.
What happened?
Drama queen. Making a big deal out of nothing, pretty much.
John?
Yeah. His usual grind.
Well, it sounds like you know how to deal with it.
Yeah, but I'm not allowed to drink while I work.
Find your limits. This is where you find your limits, because you've committed to achieving a goal with unknown obstacles. You try to be prepared for what the obstacles might be, but the reality is you will not be prepared for all the obstacles. You are telling yourself you're supporting the car, supporting the driver, and making sure all the members of the team have what they need. So it's a selfless pursuit for me.
So we'll probably be on the podium tonight, I think. And then we think we're second in class.
Okay.
So we're kind of making up ground. It's a marathon, this race.
Yeah.
So missing that first day kind of put us behind. And the leader of the class, which is a silver Porsche out there, RENE, fast car. Pretty good driver too. We're making up time, but we have 9 minutes of penalties. And so we have to make up the 9 minutes for missing that first day.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple things with La Carrera. It's that you're having fun and that it's a challenge. And with this race, my fear is that the race will end before I'm tired of racing it. You know, things have changed. There's not another race like this in the world. Anytime there's an accident in a race like this, and governments start looking at this race and saying, does this make sense for us to let people do this?
Who, don't know who you're talking about.
The guy jumped out of the truck and I didn't know. And I was asking a question and the guy said, go ahead and go forward. So I took off.
I have no idea what you're talking about. They're not in front with you? Oh, you better get back and get them then, John.
Yeah, right. I'm not going back that way.
In order for us to race in Mexico, to do this event, the citizens of this country are absolutely put in a bad situation because we're shutting down their commute. We're shutting down their route to school. We're shutting down their route for a date or a wedding or whatever's going on. You know, the federales come in and they shut the roads down, and we come through and we do our speed sections, we do our transits. So even when the roads aren't shut down, we're driving race cars through their city streets and highways to get to the next section. It's absolutely crazy. Aside from obstacles, there are really stark realities about this race. The truth is, the reason the race ended back in the 50s was the amount of deaths. Privateers and locals, Mexican nationals and some teams that were relatively close to Mexico, that's how the race started. But big factory teams from Ferrari and Porsche and Mercedes, they started putting big money and effort into these races, and they had really fast cars, and they started killing off really good drivers. At the end of the day, a lot of people can drive, but the world only makes so many real drivers, and it's always sad when they leave the planet. The intent of the race isn't to kill people, it's to have a spirit of excitement. You know, look what man is capable of. He's built this great road, he's built this great country, and let's share what we have this great road race. But the stark reality is that with few exceptions, there is at least 1 or 2 injuries, and sometimes 1 or more deaths every time this event takes place. They tell us, be safe, be smart, don't take everything for granted, because you have route books, you have information, but things change by the minute. A car can dump oil, a car can go off and come back on and leave rocks all over the road. Locals can be crossing the road with their family. You can be going through a small town. You have to be on your toes because there's always something just waiting for you. And if you set yourself up to do something bad, it will happen to you. And even with your best efforts, it can happen to you. Some people may think why would you ever do that? For me and people like me, those tests are what make you feel alive. Life is contrast. Without contrast, there's no happy, no sad, no dark, no light. You have to have the two things. So when you plunge yourself into this challenge and you find yourself absolutely just at the edge, you know, wow, I'm so hungry, I'm so tired, but I have to get this done. When you come home and you've repaired yourself after this experience, you have a different perspective. It changes your perspective in life in general.
You know, we have a lot of safety equipment on, we have roll cages, we have Ansel systems, we have Hans devices, and there is a danger. I would say that the guidebook is probably 99% accurate, but every once in a while there's a mistake in it, or there's a human mistake. You know, we have human error, and a navigator can read a corner wrong, and it might be a 5, which is a very dangerous corner with a cliff and some gravel and some things like that, and he calls it as a 2. Well, 2, we're almost full speed going into this corner, and I realized halfway through that corner that he goes, oh geez, you know, this is not a 2, it's a 5. There's not a lot we can do. If you lift, if you brake, you're spinning. It's happened to us before. We get into a corner, and it's a bigger corner than we thought, and we have too much speed. This type of car, you have to hold on, and gas is your friend, and brakes are your enemy.
like La Carrera draw certain kinds of people together. For me personally, that's that challenge, you know. Can you make it to the top? Can you keep going even though it's a crawl sometimes? That's the monkey on my back, that constant voice saying, you know, that's hard to do. Not too many people can do that. Can you do that? That's one aspect of it. It's that challenge, you know. Stepping outside the comfort zone, you know, just knocking the walls of the box down and stepping out for these moments in time have affected me in a very, very positive way. Obstacles or opportunities, however you want to slice it up, I'm much more open now in my life. Challenges, I really do look at as possibilities for change and possible opportunities. Before I went to Mexico, before I raced in Mexico, I didn't know my limits. I've come to terms with that, and I know when to turn it up and when not to, because there's a certain amount of conservation you have as an individual. You have to know your limits so that you're there when you have to be as a person. You know, you have to, there's challenges to come back. So my life here as a business owner and as a husband, as a father, I definitely handle things in a different way because I've been pushed to the limit. I've been hung out on the edge. So now when the rest of the world is, oh, the sky is falling, I'm like, yeah, it's falling.
Yeah, we had a good time in Guanajuato. That master cylinder that we had trouble with that first day, that we swapped out for our replacement, that really didn't pan out the best. Rob's dad brought I think this is a brand new master cylinder, so we're going to replace the master cylinder for the second time. Yeah, and just routine inspection.
She's very stable mechanically as far as we can tell. We've had some brake issues. Rob's dad flew in to Morelia, and with him was this beautiful master cylinder that we're going to install tonight. Hopefully that'll be the last of the bugs, but the reality is that it can be way worse. And today, the little blue Dodge Dart, the Beast, went off, center punched a tree. The guys are okay, but you know, that car's definitely out. The really bitchin' Studebaker with the chopped top, it lost transmission line and it sprayed oil onto the header and it burst into flames. And they were able to put it out before it totaled the car. So, you know, a lot of the cars have gone off. They've had mechanical issues that have eliminated from this competition. Hopeful that that won't happen to us. So we'll just keep at it and see what happens.
You know, John is kind of the blood of this race. If it wasn't for John and putting these cars together and things like that, and taking care of the team, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. You know, John's the guy that stays up all night. We crash in the day, he fixes it at night.
Fix it tonight. Is there oil in it?
Huh? I haven't checked yet. I'm still doing the tires.
Okay, we gotta put oil in it right now.
You're gone.
You guys hit the sump
Okay.
pretty hard. It's not gonna take you out. We're gonna fix this tonight. It's pretty bad. But you didn't break the case. How much time do I have?
We got about 45 minutes.
You got about 45 minutes, John.
Oh shit. Oh no, I shouldn't have touched it. Oh, we should have left it alone. God damn it. Mother. It's hit hard. This is all bad. This is all bad.
We go ding.
But
ding.
that's what's hitting your exhaust.
Is the topas are hidden.
Yeah. So the sump, when you know, it's okay. I have another sump cover. I have all the sump gaskets. What I don't have is a few little pieces. We're gonna go to AutoZone, just across the street, and I'm gonna go to Sears.
Okay. You guys are only an hour and a half away from the hotel, I think.
Okay. I left a lot of stuff at the shop. We were trying to keep it as light as possible. I should have brought a tap and die set. Oh, they'll have one in here.
Buenas tardes.
Hi, how are you?
Algo para un truco que se llama machuelos es para poder hacer la cuerda de internet.
Machuelos, tornillos, no machuelos.
¿Cómo cuál será?
The guy's wrecked. We have to go get him, but first we have to stop and move some stuff. 5 cars went off. One of the Alphas is upside down. They actually weren't that hurt, but they tried to drive out of it, and they high-centered and smashed the front of their car, the Porsche.
All right, so we gotta get things ready. The guys went off, along with 5 other cars, including our competition, RENE. So it may be a battle of who can fix their car and who can't. So we're gonna see what happens. It's hard to say. They could have been, somebody could have lost some oil, and the other 5 come right behind it, and boom, done.
We didn't even know what happened. We spun, and when we stopped spinning, we were in the field. I got out of the car and walking around, really still confused. And I said, I didn't lift, I didn't do anything wrong, what happened? You know, we hit the oil and it was like hitting ice, and we just spun. You have 30 seconds, and maybe closer, and you have to get out of the way because, you know, what they don't know. When you're in a car, and then all of a sudden you're facing the wrong direction, you don't know what happens, it's a scary situation.
Yeah, go ahead and top us off. Lleno, por favor. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be interesting now.
I guess somebody pulled them out. Somehow they got the car out, and they say the car is drivable, so they're running. So they're going to meet us at the hotel.
We've pulled into Aguas Calientes. I haven't seen the hot water, but I'm sure it exists. We have a damaged car. Rob and Ricky went off pretty hard. Looks like they hit an oil slick from a car that maybe lost its motor. Our car's repairable, but it's going to take most of the night. The exhaust got crimped in one spot. The steering is damaged. I don't know if the alignment's off. The car's sitting lower on one side than the other, so it may have bent some of the suspension components. But ultimately, we want to see the arches in Zacatecas tomorrow, and that's the plan. Eric, bring the music. We need music. DVD, right? We put it on DVD?
I believe so.
Is that what happened? Playlists. Well, we got all kinds of stuff in here. Well, let's see. Okay. Ooh, look at that. You know, it's one of those things where you never give up because you don't know what's going to happen. See, had Rob and Ricky gotten a little loose but fought their way out of it and continued on, they would have won today. Because we had some problems at the beginning and the other some of the teams didn't, and there's been some back and forth because of penalties, it's kind of funny because if we don't get the car fixed in time, we're in last place. We're done. The other teams that have really struggled could actually get a podium. If the leader right now also has damage that takes her out, you could have this funny podium where the guy who was in 3rd place is now 1st. The 4th place guy who's been struggling really hard is now 2nd. And they would divvy up the scores. RENE would be 3rd, and we wouldn't get anything. Other than the satisfaction of beating the shit out of a car all the way across Mexico.
There is definitely moments that you look at during the race and you can feel the spirit of La Carrera. And for me, it's usually in the morning. When I'm walking out, I'm usually one of the first guys out. I grab a quick breakfast. John's out of the car. I'm walking out there across the parking lot. I see the truck and the trailer. It's still dark. And I say, you know what? We're in the middle of Mexico. We're about to race. We're about to race all day. You know, this is pretty cool. Everything's quiet before the engines. And at that moment when we start hearing the engines roar in the morning and the Studebakers starting, the Porsches and the Mustangs and all the cars starting, that is just incredible. That sound in the morning of silence and then the engine starting and revving. It's, you can't beat that.
We're done. Listo. Don't kill me. Huh? Good to see your face by the arches, man. Survived another one. It looks like we might get a podium. Let's see what happens. We actually ran pretty good today, even though there was some rain, and hopefully, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get a podium. I have my fingers crossed. All right, so 7 days. Started in Veracruz, zigzagged through the south and central part of Mexico, and the finish today here in Zacatecas is a good finish. We podiumed, I'm pretty sure. They sealed the car. We have to go to tech now to make sure that we're legal. It shouldn't be a problem. This was a challenge all the way through. We had some self-made problems. We had some natural problems dealing with rain, and we had problems with other cars laying down oil slicks in front of us. All in all, it was a good effort. The team at the shop put a good car together, and Ricky and Rob did their job, and I thank them for giving me the opportunity to build the car for them and take care of it. This is the high point now. We finished, the car's alive, the boys are alive, it's a party tonight. We're gonna follow the burro, we're gonna drink some mezcal, and then we're gonna get up early in the morning and head to California. It's funny because people ask me sometimes, so what do you get? What do you get for winning the race or getting a podium, and what's the prize? The prize is very personal. There's no money. In fact, I spend a lot of money to do this. I actually lose money at the shop to do this. I lose time with my family to do this. And I do it because I want to show what my shop is capable of. I want to show what we can build. And I want to show how we work under stress. And it's important to me. It's that important to me. And so, is it worth it? Absolutely. I'll leave the planet someday, but I'll leave a little mark. And this is one of the marks I'm going to leave.
When I get home back in the States, we have what we call a La Carrera hangover. So for a day or two, we're sleep deprived, so I'm on the couch sleeping. My wife and my kids really don't know what's going on. I get in a car, and the first time I'm in a car in the States, I'm used to going through red lights. I'm used to having a police escort, and you see people at bus stops, you see people on the street, no one's waving. And you get back in the States, and they're just like, you know, what's going on? And you realize you're an ordinary person again. This is work but fun. You know, it's an interesting thing, and I think that you have to be slightly nuts to do this race.
Ultimately, I'm a car enthusiast, okay? That's how I got here. And for me, La Carrera has been a pinnacle, right? With all the challenges and the opportunities and the thrills, you know, it's just over the top. I mean, it's hard to compare it with anything else. In America, La Carrera is not well known. It's amazing how unknown it is in most aspects. But Canada, Mexico, where it takes place, Central South America, Europe, this event is followed. You know, people actually want to see what's going on. They want to read about it. They want to know about it. For whatever reason, it's never become a big draw in the American world. But I think that's because they don't know. They just don't know. And in some ways, that's a good thing. Because for me, La Carrera is still pure. Because there's only a handful of people doing it. Every year, there's a core group that does it. But there's always there's like some people that just kind of come through. They did it, they're done. But there's a core that they're connected. It's become part of their fabric now. The spirit of La Carrera is the human determination to go beyond yourself, to be tested. When the race isn't happening, when there is not a La Carrera, there's this nebulous thing. It's almost like a cloud of dust, right? And it's just blowing through the universe, these particles, right? And they're all charged up doing their thing. But then all of a sudden, the race is going to happen. And all the particles are drawn back together, boom. It draws you in, and it asks of you all you have. And if you give it, you can be rewarded with the success, personal success. Or it can blow up in your face and leave you broken. But the irony is, whether you have success or failure, when they announce the dates for the next race, you find yourself preparing. And I'll be there.